Hey, what's up guys? Frosty here, with another Hand of the Week video for y'all. Um, Today is going to be a little bit different than what I usually do for my Hand of the Week videos. I think you guys are really going to like this, hope you appreciate it. What I have got for you is 12 hands from a session that I played today. I just opened up the session and filtered for the 12 biggest pots that I played and threw them all in a replayer, and we're going to go through and talk about them. It's gonna be different than the usual hand of the week where I spend 15 minutes talking about one hand in great detail. We're just gonna still talk about these hands in detail, but maybe not quite as much. And rather than talking about something that might not happen at a really high frequency, these hands are going to be kind of like more your everyday run of the mill type spots. So I'm going to release this video. It's the second week of October. I'm excited that I've got a recording set up next week with a fellow Team Online member to record the next Team Online strategy video that I told you guys I would make. Going to keep the guest a mystery for now, but I'm excited to record, and I think you guys are really going to like it. And then I'm probably going to try to release one more Hand of the Week video during the last week of the month. So yeah, lots to look forward to, lots coming up. It's been really busy. But yeah, without further ado, why don't we just jump into the action here and start with hand 1 of 12. Don't really know why I chose 12 hands. Maybe I'm trying to keep it consistent with my screen name. Even though my screen name is actually frosty012, it's not pronounced frosty12, in case you were wondering. It's not really important. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. Gonna just keep this isn't my usual HUD, this is just like the default HUD. Stats aren't going to be too important in any of these hands, but the basic stuff might be a little bit helpful. Okay. Under the gun opens, and we got pocket jacks on the button. So he's playing 16-13, only opening 13% from EP, folding 3-bet 67%. I think against this player type, this is just always going to be a flat. More so because it looks like we have a weaker looking player in the small blind here, playing 31-8. So yeah, I think when it's like close between 3-betting or flatting, I think having a weaker player in the blinds just makes it much more of a flat. And he does come along, and we see 10-10-4, and he donks for pot. So this is weird. The reg folds. I mean, I'm really not sure what to make of this range, to be honest. Only a 13-hand sample, so can't really take much from the stats. I think we just have a call. I think you can be doing this with like deuces through nines. He can be having, you can have like a semi bluff here, lots of flush draws. He could have like 4x. I mean, the sizing makes me a little concerned at this point. Really, really good turn. If he has something like pocket fours, obviously we're winning. If he has any kind of flush draw, he's just got overcards at best. Kind of surprised to see him bet out again, but he bets out again fairly large. Like, yeah, he actually could have a 10 here, but I mean, there's just so much other stuff he can have. I don't think there's really much of a point in doing anything but calling. I mean, if we thought he was the type that was like playing like pocket sevens like this and just was never gonna fold, I could see some merit into raising maybe just to prevent like a scare card coming off. But for all we know, this guy's still bluffing with his flush draws, and he's still overplaying those medium and pocket pair hands. So I think it's mostly just always gonna be a flat. Queen on the river, and he shoves. I mean, this is pretty gross. Like, just because he's playing 31-8. Like, I don't really think he's the type of player who's just going crazy very often. We don't really have much, we don't really have much other info. But yeah, I mean, still, like, I think for value here, he's got like 10x sometimes, and then I think he has like queen x of diamonds. But he could also have 7-8 of diamonds that's just, 7-8 of diamonds that's just going for it on this river. Or for all I know, he's overplaying pocket eights or pocket nines. Like, I just think like without any concrete read, I can't fold this hand at this point, even though I'm not really thrilled about it. So I do call, and he has 10-9 for quad, so made me feel stupid, and we lose the hand. I don't know. I think the call down is perfectly fine. I just like wasn't really sure about this player. Like I think I've seen him on a few tables. Like I think knowing who you're up against here is like super important. Like I don't think a regular is ever going to be taking this line as a bluff very often, and I think on the other end of the spectrum, like some crazy recreational player is like always going to be taking this line as a bluff. So it's tough without reads, but I played the hand fine overall. All right, King Jack in the small. This guy opens. I think he's a reg, even though I don't have too many stats on him. Opening 40% in the button. Not folding too many 3-bets, but it's a really small sample. I just 3-bet my entire continuing range here, so I think this is a pretty standard 3-bet. He's going to call us some worse stuff. King Jack suited plays fine if called, even if we're behind. And I think he just folds so much that it's just immediately profitable. He calls, and we have King 3-4, good flop for my range. Like I'm pretty much just betting my entire continuing range on this board. Like I'm gonna be betting all my value, my bluffs, semi bluffs, even hands like in between like pocket tens, pocket jacks. I'm probably just betting for a bit of a merge. I just think they play better than check calling. So he calls, and yeah, the turn's gonna get a little bit interesting. I mean, or can potentially get interesting, I should say, because I think King Jack is pretty close, but I think like a hand like King 10 or like King 9 suited, we're almost definitely going to be wanting to check at some point. It's just like we're just not going to be able to get 3 streets with those type of hands. I think King Jack is probably right on the fringe where we can probably just bet and feel pretty good about it most of the time. But I think with a hand like King 9 suited, we're going to probably want to check at some point, either like the flop or the turn. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to depend on what the turn card is too. Like on a club, I'm probably just checking my entire range anyways. But yeah, in this given spot, I mean, we end up smashing the turn, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm definitely just going to be betting twice now. I'd be betting my flush draws again. I'd be betting like Queen 10. So I still have like lots of like semi bluffs, and then I have lots of value as well. So I'm just gonna bet my standard sizing. He ends up calling, and the river pretty much completely bricks off. I mean, unless he has like 5-7 of clubs, like the 6 is pretty much irrelevant. He could have 5-6, but I just don't think he's gonna be calling down with that or turning that into a bluff very often. So yeah, sort of interesting because this is like a spot where I'm definitely gonna want to have a check calling range, just given the fact that the flush draws missed. And I'm also just going to have some hands that are pretty happy taking showdown right now, like pocket queens, like maybe ace jack if I bet it twice. So I'm going to have a few hands that are just happy seeing showdown. And then, if I want to have some stronger hands in that check calling range, I can have some king x for sure. But I think I would rather choose like the weaker king x that can't really bet 3 streets. Like I'm not saying like the best line with like King 9 would be like the bet then check call. I think checking the turn would be pretty reasonable too. But yeah, I don't really want to. I don't really want to like just take like the stronger parts of my range and check call them at a really high frequency because the board isn't that wet. There's just one flush draw, and I think most of the time I'm just going to be kind of concentrated on just balancing my betting range in the spot because that's what's going to happen so often. I just don't think this is like a board texture that Villain is just going to start going crazy and bluffing with a lot. Because he should know I'm check calling quite a bit. Like if he has a flush draw here, like he should know it's pretty likely I have King X a decent chunk of the time. But yeah, it's just kind of like an aside. Like obviously with King Jack, I'm going for 3. Probably go for 3 comfortably with King Queen, like I was talking about. And like, yeah, we'll just see what happens. So I just shove, and he tanks for a while, and he eventually calls, and he has King Queen off. So what do I think of his call down? I think it's fine. I think like he's got like one of the better hands to call me down with. Like he has no clubs, which is huge. Like he has the queen, which blocks some combos of ace queen, which is bad. Like I think an ideal hand to call down here would probably be like King 9 suited or something, because I'm gonna have potentially ace queen, ace 10 that's double barreling. and then all my flush draws. So not having a club here is huge because like I'm definitely double barreling, if not tripling, potentially some flush draws. Um, so yeah, I think if he's going to call down, I think his call is perfectly fine with this hand. Even though he needs to realize like he's not beating any part of my value range, like he's just chopping with king queen, and yeah, losing to everything better. So yeah, kind of interesting. I think both people played the hand pretty well, pretty standardly. Pocket kings. Off to a good start. Okay, so 36-16 looks like a weaker player calls in the small blind. Looks good. What are you doing, buddy? I don't know what's with all these big donks, but we saw in the other hand with pocket jacks where the guy donked out on 10-10x. I mean, this is quite a different situation. Like, I'm not happy to see the sizing because I think more often than not when weaker players bet closer to full pot, they just don't have as many bluffs. Though obviously I still think they could have bluffs. It just depends on the player. But I think the really strong hands can be probably heavily discounted when a player donks. Like even though the guy on the other hand did donk out trips, I think that was probably a minority case based on my experience. I think more often than not, when you see a donk, it's usually like a fairly weak range. I think that the nutted hands or the big combo draws would typically go for a check raise. So I think we're looking at a range of something like a bunch of weak flush draws, and then like maybe some weak straight draws like 5-6 or like ace-3, like ace-5, some gut shots like 4x, and then maybe some 9x that they think they're betting for value. So I think against that range, and given my exact hand here, pocket kings, and given how wet the board is, I think raising is just much better than calling. I think if it was like 9-4 deuce rainbow, and like we had like pocket aces or even pocket kings, I guess, but aces is less vulnerable to an ace rolling off or like a scare. Like the ace could potentially be a scare card to the villain, and if we had aces, we would obviously block a lot of aces in the deck. I think those would probably be better hands than board textures to call with. I think in this given spot, it's just a clear raise, and if he calls, we set up a turn shove, and if he shoves, we can call pretty happily, and if he folds, he folds. But yeah, I think we want to just try to maximize value when we're up against a 9x hand or a 4x hand that just doesn't want to fold. So we raise and he ships. It's just like, well, whatever. Like we're calling pretty happily here. Like I said, like I don't know exactly what that donking range means, and I'm a little worried just given the sizing, but I think I just explained pretty much the exact reasons why I want to call. So yeah, get a pretty sweet run out, pretty safe anyways. And he has queen 9, so that's basically exactly what we're trying to target, and yeah, pretty much worked out as good as it could have. Ace king on the button. Okay, so 37-20. Again, based on stack size and stats, looks like a weaker player. Standard 3-bet. Not much to say about that. He calls, and we flop the nuts. Good start. So he checks. I mean, this is such a good board. Like he has, even though like I think even like weaker players can like realize that I'm gonna have ace king a lot here. But I think like even if they realize that, they're still just not gonna fold their like one pair. And I think like on this board, villain just has so many pair plus draw type hands, so many 2-pair. Like it's just such a good situation for us. So I'm just gonna and he's not even full stack, so it's gonna be relatively easy to get all the money in here. So I just go ahead and bet pretty standard amount on the flop. And he check raises, so obviously an amazing situation. I mean, the question is just, do we shove it in now or do we call? Like, I think against well, I don't think a good player would ever check raise this board very often. I mean, because they would just know we have ace king so much, and yeah, I think against a better player though, it's probably always a call. I think you obviously can't go wrong by calling ever. I think I could probably like exploitively just shove here, I say exploitively because I'm like never gonna have a bluff, but I just don't think this guy's ever folding like a pair plus draw, like two pair type hand. But that said, I mean, we just have the board locked down to like, if he ever does have a bluff here, I just want to let him bet it all in on the turn. It'd be a disaster if we made him fold a bluff. The reality though is I just don't think he has very many bluffs, but I choose to call, and I mean obviously you can't go too wrong with either one. But yeah, I mean, like we get this crappy turn, and now I just like want to go back and shove all the money in on the flop because, you know, if he has two pair now, he's going to be really potentially reluctant to get the money in. So, you know, it's good if he actually has a bluff. Maybe he'll continue. Like, he's going to have some hands, like ace-7 of spades, like, just like gut shots that would fold to our flop shove. So, you know, depending on what his holdings are, calling could be quite a bit better. But if he did have something like queen-jack, you know, now we don't really know what kind of player this is, but some guys might even check fold. Yeah, I would doubt it, but, you know, maybe not queen-jack, but maybe say like, I don't know, like Queen X or like maybe like Jack 10 or something. Unfortunately, he checks. I really think we want to just check back here. I think we want to like, I think just like given stack sizes, like we can still get the money in on the river, and it's obviously not going to be a big overbet or anything. If we were deeper here, I'd probably just bet, just hope he calls with two pair, or hope he cooler him with the king. But yeah, we also give him a chance to bluff again on the river, and we make our hand potentially look a little bit weaker by checking. So go ahead and check. River breaks off, and he does bet out, but he bets so small. It looks like a blocker type bet, obviously, but at this point there's only one thing to do but shove, and I think I'm getting called pretty frequently here. And he does call, and he does have queen 10, so we got max value anyways. So, I mean, obviously the hand worked out, but I think if we shove that flop, he's just never folding as well. So, yeah, looked like we were bound to win his stack regardless. Pocket aces. Okay, well, yeah, I remember this hand. There's just not anything to talk about. This guy just goes crazy, shoves $76 over and open. I mean, these spots will come up from time to time, and when they do, they're pretty fun to have the nuts. Just a nice gift pot if we can hold up. Good run out, and he has 10-5. So, okay, guess he doesn't like money. Yeah, I opened 7-8 because this is the same guy from the previous hand that donked out top pair, queen 9, and just went with it. So I'm obviously wanting to play pots with him. Not sure if this happened like after or before. So he 3-bets. A little unfortunate he's not full stacked here, but I mean, I don't know what his 3-bet's 10.8, so it's actually 3-betting quite a bit. I mean, just with his hand and the sizing he makes it, and obviously our implied odds, like this is just a slam dunk call, especially when we flop flush and he like pots it. Like, so this is like, I think this is quite different than like the ace king hand where like we, you know, raising and calling are like sort of close. I think this is pretty much a clear shove. For like a couple reasons. I mean, I'm not too worried about protecting my equity because like the money's just going in on the turn anyways. Even if I called and a club came off, like I'm just not gonna fold. But the problem is when he has like ace king of hearts and another club comes off, then all of a sudden, you know, he might check fold. I actually don't expect this guy to fold like aces no club, even if another club rolls off. I don't think he's folding like an overpair, regardless. But yeah, there's definitely some hands that we can potentially lose value to. Like, I mean, yeah, if I shove here and he has ace king of hearts, like I honestly think he's calling. Like I don't even think he's going to think twice about it. So yeah, we just do well. We do well against a lot of hands that could potentially fold, and like I mean, when he pots like this, like he's gonna usually just have like Jack X plus or like pair plus club anyways that he's just never folding. So shove and he calls, and it runs out like that, and he had nines with club. So crappy run out, I guess, but I mean we got our money in pretty good, so not much else to do there. queens under the gun. Can't drink water very well, apparently. Okay, so we're up against a 56-0 and a 67-11, and we flop middle set on ace, deuce, queen. I mean, this is just like such a good spot, just because we don't block any aces, and I don't expect either of these players to fold a gutter, which like is a massive portion of their range. Yeah, so I mean, this is a great spot. I end up betting like 6.5, which I think is good. I thought afterwards maybe I should just go bigger, just bet like $8 here, because I don't think anyone's ever folding ace X, and then I can bet bigger on the turn and then get more value on the river too, if I'm thinking 3 streets ahead. But you know, I think this is fine. I also think if I bet like $8, there actually is a chance they might fold like king 10, and I don't think they ever fold king 10 to this sizing. We get called. Great turn. Board's getting like a little bit wetter. I'm like not too worried about it though, obviously. At this point though, I want to bet pretty big. Like I don't just want to make it like half pot or anything. Like I just don't think he's folding ace X, and I want to be able to get in a big bet on the river if he does call. So I go 18. I mean, I could probably just go bigger than that, to be honest. I could probably make it like 19 or 20. I don't think it matters a whole lot. We get called, and then a jack. I mean, jack's like actually a pretty good card, I think. Like, I think he folds turn with king 10 at this point, except for maybe like king 10 of clubs exactly. That's only like one combo. I think he has a lot of ace jack. I think he has a lot of queen jack. If you call with king jack, which I think he folds turn, you know, he's got a pair. And then I just think he has so much ace X, and I just like don't think he's prepared to fold it. So, I thought a little bit about my bet sizing. It's sort of like an interesting spot because I think like the villain's calling range isn't it's not going to be like elastic to my bet sizing if I bet anywhere from like $25 to like $45. Like I just don't think it really matters that much, but I think it could be potentially elastic, and it could potentially change if I shove here. Like this is like not an ideal example because the fish actually has me covered, but usually in these spots, if I put them all in, like he might find a fold with ace X because you're basically putting his entire bankroll on the line, and yeah, they might not feel too good about it. Whereas if you leave them with like $15, $20, you know, they're just gonna like kind of side call and be left with $20 left to play if they're wrong. I honestly think that's how a lot of people think. So yeah, I thought about it a little bit, but I really just didn't want him to fold ace X here. So I decided to bet like 44, I think. Yeah, which I think is fine. Like, because like I said, like I really don't want to like cut myself short here and bet like $30 when I think he's gonna call like 44. I could probably even make this bigger. Like I could probably make it up. Like when you start to get up to 50, up to the full pot, then that's kind of where I think you kind of start to potentially scare the villain off a bit. But yeah, I mean, that's going to depend on the player. I mean, I don't know if I had to read that the guy just doesn't like to fold, then I'm just going to like shove and to get stamped off by ace X. But yeah, for all those reasons, I decided to make it 44, and he just calls and has these 5. So it's pretty sweet. Okay. Yeah, I remember this hand. I mean, I open ace 4. Suited, weaker player in the big blind, he just clicks it back, nothing to do but call. Ace jack jack, and he leads for like full pot. Like, like I don't know, like all these pots, people just love to donk today. I'm not feeling great about my hand. Like I think his like min click back pre-flop can mean a few things. I mean, it can pretty much mean anything. I've seen everything, to be honest. I mean, it could be garbage. It could be just a merge range of the villain picks up some kind of playable hand, a pocket pair, a Broadway hand, and just clicks it back. And then there's going to be lots of players who just do it with aces, or like aces and kings, I guess. So, you know, I'm pretty in the dark. And then like he chooses this pot sizing. I'm not really thrilled about it because if he does have a stronger range, like I have a lot of reverse implied odds coming my way, and it's not a great spot. But I don't think we can fold the flop. I think like the villain can easily have kings here and easily have queens, and he just bets it regardless of texture, regardless of thinking about what the best play might be. And then obviously if he's clowning around, he's just like in really bad shape. So we pick up equity on the turn. and he like pots again. I mean, this is pretty gross. Like, to me, this looks a lot like he just has like ace king, and he's just like betting. He just like wants to get the money in, like somewhat for protection and somewhat for value. Like, yeah, he just wants to, yeah, just get the money in. But like, by the same token, I mean, I blocked that hand. I don't think he. I don't know. Like, obviously, I don't know for sure, but like, I don't think he would take the sizing with Jack X as much. I also don't think he would take this with like pocket aces. But yeah, I mean, it's just, he can definitely have ace queen. He can definitely have ace king. He definitely have like ace 10. Like, my kicker is terrible, which is a pretty big problem. Um, I end up calling. I just like, I obviously have like, because I don't think he has a boat like ever. So I do think my implied odds are pretty good. Like, if a diamond rolls off, like, I just win. I also think I think there's like, he could maybe check an ace x hand, given the fact that I called twice and he might be afraid of me having a jack, and then I just get to see showdown cheaper. I don't think that happens very often, but I think it might sometimes. And then, I mean, there's the off chance he's just clowning around with like king queen or king jack, and I just win that way. So I call, like, planning to fold the river. We missed our flush and he shoves. But at this point, like, I don't really realize or I didn't really pay enough attention to the stack size, I guess. Like, at this point, I'm getting like 3.35 to 1, it looks like. Which I don't know if that's enough to call or not. Like, it's impossible to tell without knowing more about this guy's, like, being click back 3-betting range, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, with only $30 left to call and 72 already in the pot, like, even though I don't think I'm good here that often, I just say like whatever and just call. And he's like queen 4 off, so like, I mean, that's why we call. Like, without any reads, like, it's just these spots become so sick. But yeah, sometimes you just have to look at your absolute hand strength and just look at the player and just close your eyes and call down. I mean, like, if I don't turn equity on that turn, I'd probably just fold, to be honest. But given that I turned equity and then called this big bet and then only left him 30 on the river, kind of just backed myself into a corner and just, it was just kind of choosing the best of a lot of bad options, I think. But yeah, luckily it worked out. Yeah, okay, ace king suited here. We got I love regs. Opens pretty tight in EP, 11%. I don't have the stats up here, but I remember that this guy he has a pretty tight cold calling range. It was like less than 8% or something like that. So like, I know he's on a pretty strong range. I don't know. I play a mixed strategy here. I'll 3-bet it sometimes. I'll flat sometimes. It's never fun to get the money in here against these ranges anyways. So that definitely lends itself to a flat. But I think 3-betting is fine. I think even though, what is it? Wasian? I don't know what his name is. Even though he has a small or a tight flatting range, like, it's probably pretty face up as something like 10s through queens, and if he calls my 3-bet, we can just play accordingly. But yeah, I choose the flat because, well, I mean, just because it's a fine play to begin with against these ranges, I think, but also because there's a weaker player in the small. Dante comes along, and I didn't even realize it at the time, but he's got a 15.4% 3-bet. Like, if I had noticed that, this is just like an easy flat. Like, I'm not thrilled about playing against these ranges to begin with. And if he's going to just do something crazy like this, not crazy, but if he's just going to be 3-betting often, it's definitely a flat. And then I just want to try to pile money in against him. Like, he can have value here. He could potentially have better the same hand, but, I mean, we'll take our chances against a 41-26 with ace king of hearts. It's at a pot limit table, so I can't just shove all the money in, which is what I normally would do, just because I don't think his calling range is going to be elastic to whether I, click it back or shove. I think he either has a good hand and he's not folding, or he's just bluffing and he's just, well, I don't think he's ever going to fold, but not to this sizing, but yeah, I think it doesn't really matter. So I just make it as much as possible. I don't have to be worried about Dante too much. Like, he can potentially be slow playing to get the weaker player in the pot, but I think this is just too good a squeeze spot for him with like aces or kings after he goes open, call. So yeah, not too worried about it. Then he calls, which is annoying, but what can you do? Yeah, he checks and I shove. It's yeah, there's no reason in checking back here. I'm not expecting him to ever fold a pair, but I think given how much money's in the pot, he can definitely call with ace queen and ace jack. I fully expect him to call with those hands. Um, if he ever does fold a pocket pair, if he's the kind of guy who is actually really afraid that I have aces or kings and he just wants to call and see a flop, um, and then he folds a pocket pair, we're just making so much money. The hands that are folding still have equity too. I think. I mean we have them in pretty bad shape most of the time. It's going to be king queen king jack, but he could have some queen jack that if we make fold, that's pretty good. So, and obviously even if he calls, we have pretty good backdoor equity and hopefully 6 overs that are live. So not too much chocolate there, and he ends up folding. So that's a pretty big victory actually. Pretty happy with that result. Queen queen in the cutoff. So we're deep. He's 3-betting 11.8%. I mean 50% on the button, but the sample's pretty small. But I think we have enough information about this guy to see that he's fairly aggressive. I think 4-betting or flatting is perfectly reasonable. I chose the flat in game, which I think is fine. I think a 4-bet against this player is probably better though, just because I think he's gonna call a lot. It's just a nightmare if he shoves though, and we don't. I only have 100 hands on him, so I don't really know how crazy he's gonna be going in this spot, given how deep we are. But I do think that he's probably 3-betting lighter than usual because we are deep. So I probably slightly prefer 4-betting here actually rather than calling, but I think calling is perfectly fine. And yeah, I mean we keep some worse pocket pairs in his range. If he's 3-betting ace-7 suited, we can win a c-bet, etc. So I think it's fine. Not the best flop, but it's not terrible. I pretty much can't do anything but call here. I don't think I can fold, and obviously check raising is a pretty big overplay. 7 of clubs on the turn. I mean, this is kind of the problem about calling with these hands. We really at the mercy of the villain a lot of the times. I mean, I don't think he shouldn't be going crazy because my range should be pretty strong, and I'm gonna have lots of ace queen with the ace of spades or the queen of spades, stuff I'm just not gonna fold. But if he ever has those cards himself, I expect him to just go crazy barreling, and we're gonna have a really tough time calling down. So that's kind of the problem we get ourselves in. Yeah, I'm pretty much jumping up and down when he checks back. I'm just pretty much closing my eyes and hoping he doesn't bet this turn. But yeah, he checks back when the river's pretty good because I don't think he has too much 9x. Now it's just, do we want to value bet our hand or do we want to check? I think it's pretty clear value bet. I just think think after he checks the turn he's just never gonna bluff. So then it's a question of if he can value bet worse, and I don't really think he can. He might take a check bet line with pocket tens or pocket jacks for value, but especially on the 9, I don't think he has very many 9x. We don't have a ton, but we definitely have some 9x. We got 9-10 suited, 8-9 suited. So it's not an amazing card for him to value bet. I think we just bet and hope that he hears us with ace king or maybe he has a hand 7-8, or something like that. And I would probably bet I'm trying to think what I would bet here for bluffs. I'm not gonna have a ton of bluffs because most of the stuff that calls flop is gonna have showdown. Even if I have ace queen with a spade, that should have decent showdown value in itself. So and there's no backdoor draws on the flop really. So it's pretty tough for me to have a bluff here actually if I bet, which it'd have to be some kind of just some kind of pure float that I just think he's stabbing with too wide. I really can't think of many. Let me try to think for a sec. I might call with a hand Jack 10 with a spade, Queen Jack with a spade, and then I would probably definitely bluff with those. So I think that makes sense. So I will have some bluffs here, I guess. Like, I'm definitely not going to just check, like, Jack Queen with a spade or anything like that. Though I'm not sure I'm calling the three bet with Jack 10 off very often. So yeah, take it for what it's worth. I bet, he snaps, and I win somehow. I don't know how I win. What did he call me with? So, pocket jack. So, yeah, that was a pretty good result. I mean, I potentially lost value by not 4-betting, and I assume if I 4-bet, he's just always calling, and then maybe we can get the money in post-flop. But, yeah, I mean, it could obviously have gone the other way, too, and these hands could have been switched around, or he could have had kings. So, I think my line's fine. I think given the call pre-flop, it's probably optimal. And standard. Okay, so I opened 9-10 of diamonds. Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. And Donald flats in the cutoff. This guy, like, I played quite a bit with him. He flats really wide in all positions, it seems, and he just like stabs like crazy. So, unfortunately, I have to check fold to him quite a bit though, just given a lot of different board textures. And like this is a board texture where I'm pretty much checking my entire range on. And I mean, against this player, I definitely want to just check here, just given his like stabby tendencies, and you know he likes to bluff sometimes. And I have the board completely crushed. There's just like not too much he can have. I don't mind obviously just letting his gut shots bet, and if he does have a value hand, then you know we're getting his money anyway. So, and like it's really really good to have just to protect my checking range. Like I'm gonna have so much like ace king here. Like even like some over pairs. I'll bet those. Well, oh, excuse me. On 10-10x, it's kind of close. Like, he's going to not have a ton of tens. On, like, something like Jack X or Queen X, I'm probably checking out all the time. On 10-10x, I'll check, sometimes. But yeah, I'm going to have all those kind of, like, Ace King, Ace Queen hands, and some overpairs that, well, overpairs are fine check calling, but basically all my unpaired hands that just don't want to take a bet here. So if I put a hand like this in my checking range, like, it prevents people from going crazy. It makes you a lot tougher to play against, and yeah, it's just a good way to maximize value in a vacuum anyways. So yeah, I don't want to check raise here because, well, on a paired board, I don't even know if you'd like call with a flush draw, but like more to the point, I'm just trying to protect my check calling range here, like I was just talking about. 4 spades rolls off, brings another flush draw. I'm just going to continue with my plan and try to rep the weaker parts of my range. He obliges and bets. Again, for the same reasoning, I'm just wanting to protect my check calling range. Like he probably thinks I have like just ace king high at this point, or maybe a pocket pair, and he might try to blow me off a pocket pair by the river. Also, I just have like just exploitively speaking, I just have this board so locked down that there's just like not much he can have at this point. Like I think he's probably just stabbing with a couple overs, or he's got a hand like pocket sevens or pocket eights that he's betting for protection, like all kinds of stuff that would just fold if I check raise anyways. And the ace come, which is pretty interesting. Like, I don't know. It's not a great card because I think he's gonna have some like ace x flush draws that are now just gonna check back. But if he doesn't have a flush draw, well, and also like it kind of goes both ways. Like he can think this is a good card to bluff if he thinks I have a hand like jacks through kings, but if he thinks I have like an ace high flush draw, or if he thinks I'm like just like slow playing pocket aces or a set or something, then he's probably just not gonna bluff. So it kind of goes both ways. He might think it's a good bluff card, or he might not. I'm not really sure. And it kind of depends what I think of my opponent here, like whether or not I should like donk this river. I think this is like a reasonable card to just donk against, because if my opponent's like not stabbing a ton and they just have a lot of flush draws, then they're just gonna have like an ace high flush draw here quite a bit, and they'll just call one bet and they'll probably just check back. They might value bet, but they might check back a lot too. But if I'm up against a villain like this, who I think is just stabbing every time when check to, and then just going to continue bluffing a lot, I think I'm just better off just checking and hoping he goes for or hoping he has a hand that has to basically bluff. And he bets 26, and obviously I'm happy. I mean, obviously I go to shove, and then I think about it for a second, and I like talk myself out of shoving, which seems ridiculous, obviously. But I just like don't think he can ever call with worse hand here. Like we block pocket nines, obviously. I mean, like, the thing is, like, we block literally the only hand that beats us is ace 10 or pocket aces. So, I mean, we're just good here so much that not shoving seems ridiculous, and it probably is. But at the same time, like, he's gonna know that I play pocket aces like this. Like, he might not know I play 9-10 like this, but this is probably a more common line to take with pocket aces, just given the board pair on the flop. So, you know, he's going to definitely have that in mind if I check shove here. And I just don't see what he can call with. Like he can have ace 10. Like, he can have it. And, like, if he has, like, pocket nines or pocket fours, like, I just don't think he's calling a shove. I just, like, don't. Just, especially given my table image, like, it's got to be on the tighter side of things. So, I really just didn't think I could get called by worse. And if he had, like, jack 10 or king 10, I just honestly don't think he's calling a shove. Just given our history, given our dynamics. And, like, I mean, I thought all this was, like, kind of like a moot point anyways, because, honestly, I just thought he had nothing here, like, pretty much every time. Like, he's just going to have, like, a busted flush draw or a gut shot way more often than anything else. So, I ended up calling, and it would have been the same result anyways, because, yeah, he just had king, queen of spades. But, nitty call, but I honestly think it's okay. I mean, like, for me to, like, shove there and feel really good about it, like, I think that would mean that I would have to, like, be turning, like, ace X into a bluff a lot and shoving that too, because it's just, like, so hard for me to have a bluff or, like, turn, like, pocket, like, jacks into a bluff, which would just seem ridiculous. So yeah, I think he's as nitty as it sounds. Like, I'm fine with just calling this hand and then like, yeah, maybe I'm shoving like pocket aces just because I don't block as many tens, but then he can have quads, so I don't know. It's probably a shove. It's probably just super nitty to call, but whatever. Okay, last hand. So we get min 3-bet. I don't know too much about this guy. I've seen him on a few tables. I have a few hands on him. He seems to be playing particularly bad, but I don't really know what to make of his like small 3-bet sizing. I'm not sure if he always does that or if he just did it this case. I just haven't been paying as much attention. Which sucks, because if this is just a standard 3-bet sizing, then I'm just like shoving this all day, every day, and just being fine with it. If this is not his standard sizing, usually this means it's a really strong range, like aces or kings, or, you know, as we saw in the ace-4 hand, he could just be clowning around. I'm not really sure what he's doing, but I think folding's out of the question, obviously, given his sizing, but I think calling's probably better, just having no read, because if he is clowning around and we shove, there's a good chance he folds. If he's not clowning around, you know, we're always just crushed. So I'm calling. It's mostly a set mine, I guess, but, you know, potentially not. We can feel this out on a few flops, or we can just flop a set, so that works too. We check any bets. I mean, there's not much to talk about in this hand, really. I mean, on this board especially, he's just never folding. Just hope he has ace king or pocket aces. Just put the money in. Runs out, and he has king. So, yeah, kind of unfortunate. I mean, like, I think it looks like I was right about his sizing, though, which makes me happy that I just called, because, I mean, he could have just as easily had pocket aces there as pocket kings, and then, you know, we win the stack, assuming the ace doesn't roll off in the river. So, yeah, I'm cool with how I played the hand, and that just happens to be the last hand of the video. So, let me know what you guys thought of this format. As always, leave questions, comments on any of my social media outlets. They're all up on the right there. And yeah, I'll be recording the Team Online Strategy video next week, so look forward to that. And in the meantime, I'll catch you later. So good luck at the tables, guys. This has been Frosty.